Hello, everyone. My name is Julie McVey, and this is Unordinary Made Ordinary, where we talk about extraordinary experiences of everyday people. After today's interview, if you would like to continue the conversation of all things metaphysical, paranormal, and supernatural, feel free to join our private UMO group by clicking on the link in the video description. And today, our guest is Krista Prince. Welcome, Krista.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. This is going to be a really powerful conversation, I believe. And if you wouldn't mind, Krista, could you just share a little bit about yourself for the listeners?
Sure. My name's Krista. I'm almost 40. I am a single mom that lives in the Midwest, Columbus, Ohio, to be exact. I'm just a regular person. I work in a doctor's office in billing, and I'm here to talk about my youngest child, Kherington, and me.
Very good. And what I do like to ask Krista, if it's okay, did you grow up in a religious household or spiritual practices in your home as a kid?
So I do remember going to vacation Bible study. I think that was more for my mom and my aunt to get a break from me and my cousin. There was a point that I actually went to church. I would say late elementary, early middle school, but I was the only member of my family that went to church. I used to work the Christmas service, and so my family would wait to unopen gifts until after midnight mass on Christmas Eve. But I was the only one to go. Nobody else in my family went. My grandma was Catholic. I wouldn't say practicing. I do remember before her passing being afraid of dying because she had had a divorce. My mom, due to childhood trauma, was actually an atheist. And I would say that late teens, early 20s, I got into the more spiritual aspect of it. But I can remember as far back as second grade at Etna Road Elementary in the cafeteria, talking to somebody, another student, about reincarnation and telling them that I had believed in it. Except I told them I didn't want to be the little yellow flowers in the sidewalk that got stepped on. And so while I still believe in reincarnation, I don't believe we turn into cats or dogs or flowers or insects. So it has evolved some, but I would say prior to everything happening, I had a very good foundation for my belief system.
Had you had any sort of paranormal experiences, angelic intervention kinds of things at all during your life?
I'm sure that there are moments in my life that could have been bad. No near-death experiences, no, it's that you stop at a red light, you're 2 seconds late and there's an accident at an intersection that you're normally at type thing. Sure. Prior to my daughter's transitioning, the only experience I had was when I was about 19, my grandmother had passed. My grandmother was fairly young. She was 54, but she had kidney issues and was on dialysis. She had heart issues. They couldn't do surgery on either one. And we believe that she let herself pass. She had hid in her room and didn't go to dialysis 3 times in 1 week. And we had found her. And
wow.
I think she didn't want to be a burden to the family. She was running out of, money. She hadn't retired per se when she went off of work. And my mom, who was angry at the world and didn't believe in anything, and I did. I remember having conversations with my mom on the front porch that, like, the other side is real, because that's what I call it. I don't really call it heaven. I do refer to it as the other side. And I remember her crying about my grandma and me telling her grandma was in a better place. And I had a dream with my grandma, and I know dream visits because I have experienced those. This was more than that. This was, I believe that my grandma, while I was asleep, took me to the other side. So we were in a beautiful garden, something out of a Thomas Kincaid painting. We were wearing toga-like outfits with sandals. The sun was shining high, the wind was blowing, but it wasn't hot. There were so many colors. The sky was almost like a tinge of a pink. And she brought through a couple souls with her that I knew that would have been my kids prior to having them.
Oh,
And
wow.
we talked for what felt like hours. It felt like hours. And my grandma
This
looked
is
like her
great.
senior picture. She looked like Snow White. She was young and she was
Senior
thin
high
and
school. Yeah.
yes, that's
Yeah.
exactly what she looked like. Just gorgeous. And she was so happy. And it was just a beautiful experience. And I remember waking up and hopping out of bed, like literally hopped out of bed. My feet hit the cold hardwood floors. And I immediately ran downstairs to my mom and was like, Grandma came last night. And I was telling her this dream. And it dawned on me that we didn't speak like with our mouths,
Mm-hmm.
that it was telepathically.
Yeah.
And I was brought so much comfort from that. And I really feel like my grandma came to me because I was open to it.
Mm,
Whereas my mom probably would not have been.
right.
And that was the only experience I had for years. Even a few years later, my mom passed in 2006. So she was 39. She
Mm,
died of sepsis, but she had just been put back on the liver transplant list. So she had had a liver transplant about 10 years prior.
mm,
I remember being very worried about her because she didn't have any beliefs.
yeah.
And I know now that, yes, she's with me, but I don't remember any specific signs. I don't remember hearing a song on the radio and going, that's mom, or
Mm-hmm.
seeing a ladybug and going, that's mom, or feeling her presence. Even to this day, I don't normally feel her with me. But I do know that she's on the other side. I
Okay.
don't have any doubt about that. I don't think whether you believe or not believe that gives you a ticket in or a ticket out. I don't think that your cause of death gives you a ticket in or ticket out. I wish I believed in hell sometimes. I think that there should be some people there
Uh-huh.
and it would make my life easier to condemn them all down there. But
Right.
I don't, unfortunately. Um, so those were my experiences leading up to my
Yeah.
true spiritual awakening. And in a way, it was like I had to go through tragedy to really open up. And at the same time, I feel it's a tad unfair because I don't have to have the belief without knowing.
Mm-hmm.
I have been
Yeah.
shown things, I have experienced things that are 100% true to me.
Mm-hmm.
I went through these experiences. I had these connections, these contacts, these dream visits, these astral projections. So it's not even a belief anymore. Like, I don't have to believe without
Right. It's a
experiencing it.
knowing
So
now.
yeah,
It's a
yeah.
knowing. Yeah. Krista, would you like to now share sort of leading up to what happened with your youngest and then how
Mhm.
she contacted you after her
So,
passing?
yep. So in 2018, my middle child, who was my son, who was 13 at the time, and my youngest, Kherington, who was 9 at the time, were out of state visiting their father for his summer visitation.
Okay.
They were to be gone for 3 weeks. 2 weeks in, and it was a Friday, August 10th. Um, he was driving drunk with our kids in the car,
Oh, okay.
and he went off the road, and it was a
Wow.
convertible, and they landed upside down. And my daughter Carrington was killed instantly. My son Cage survived. He actually was half in, half out of the car when people got to him. Um, this took place on a sunny Friday at
Mhm.
6 o'clock. People were getting off of work and headed out for vacations and camping and fishing. And so there was a lot of people on the road. So a lot of people had seen this. So there were people instantly there for my kids. My son also has autism, and he was in the front seat. And like I said, he survived. Their father also survived. And which is why I wish I believed in hell sometimes. And he is a quadriplegic. He is currently in prison. They gave him last year, they gave him 3 years prison time with 7 years probation. So that was
Mm,
the start of, at the time, I would tell you, it was a nightmare.
mhm.
It totally ripped my world apart. It was like everything sped up and slowed down at the same time. I don't like going back to those first few moments of finding out or getting the Facebook message to call this number, and it was the hospital, and I was out of state. It was 10 hours away, and nobody would tell me that she was even in the car. So
Mhm.
because the call was at 10 o'clock at night for me, my time, 9 o'clock theirs, and the accident had happened at 6 o'clock their time, I thought maybe it was just my son. I was told my son was okay. I was told the father was injured. I was
Mm,
told it would be a good idea to come up there and pick him up. I
mm.
called 8 or 9 hospitals in the area to try to find my daughter because nobody would tell
Yeah,
me if she was in the car or not.
yeah.
And I knew it was bad when other ERs started picking up and saying, no, we don't have anybody from that crash, but I heard it was bad. Um, it just
Okay.
was very surreal.
Mhm, mhm.
It was very painful. It was the first time in the days and weeks like after that was the first time I felt my soul. Like you have a conscious, I have a running dialogue in my head. I found out some people don't actually always have that where they talk to
I
themselves.
Yes, I've heard that. It's surprising.
Um, which is probably why I like reading. I can picture things as movies in my head.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's a blessing and a curse.
Mhm. Yeah.
I also think that's why after the trial and everything, I was able to get all their evidence, and I did look through the body cam footage from the police officers coming to the scene, and people would go, "Why would you do that?"
Mhm.
And for me, my imagination is worse than the truth.
Right. I understand. Yep. I can relate
So,
to that. Hmm.
so she had passed. Like I said, it was a Friday. The following Saturday, she would have been coming home. I had spoken to her and my son on Thursday. I tried to give weekends to them. I don't call. I don't want to interrupt what they got going
Hmm.
on. So I keep that for like the work days. So I had
Yeah.
talked to her on Thursday. Um, she was super excited to start fourth grade. She told me she didn't want a Pokemon book bag that year. She wanted a book bag with cats on it. And I had
Hmm.
found this amazing book bag that said like cats are life and had all real pictures of cats.
Hmm.
And an hour before I got that message, I actually sat down to purchase it, but I didn't want to get up and get my credit card.
Hmm.
And I said, I'll get it tomorrow. I'll
Hmm.
purchase it tomorrow. And not knowing that there was probably a good reason that I didn't end up purchasing it because there
Hmm.
wasn't going to be a tomorrow. But a week after she passed, the day before her service, which was held on the following Saturday, I was exhausted. We were cleaning. I was just trying to keep myself busy. My house was full of people. And I laid across my bed. I was not meaning to go to sleep, but I took a nap. I did fall asleep, and I had my first dream visit with her. She came to me. She looked about 7-ish. So she was 9 when she passed. She was super tall. Her hair was shorter, but in this one, she was smaller. I had to look down to see her. And at the time of the passing, I only had to meet her, just look her in the
Oh.
eye. So in the dream, I walk through the living room. Things are where they're not supposed to be. There's a dresser from the bedroom in the living room.
Hmm.
And I walk into the kitchen and I'm by the table and I turn and she's there and she pops up and she's bouncing on her toes. And it took me 2 years to really analyze this 30 seconds with her. She's bouncing on her toes. She's super happy. And she says, "Hi, Mom. Do you know I'm dead?" And I grab her and I turn her towards me and I kiss her forehead and I'm bawling and I'm like, "Of course I know. Of course I know." And I'm crying.
Hmm.
And I wake up.
Hmm.
My child was happy. She was so excited. She was so happy. She had the hugest megawatt smile. She smiled with her eyes. It was just like in life, they were just so sparkly and just they crinkled, and she had this gap in her tooth and she was just bouncing on her toes, and it was like, look, mom, look what I did. Did you see what I did? Duh, I did it, here
Wow.
I am. And that was the first of quite a few. I wouldn't say it's her preferred method, but I would say compared to other parents who have lost kids and don't get dreams, she's come through a good 5 or 6 times with messages for me.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
So that was the first, and it was so profound that I even talked about it at her service when I went up to speak. I even talked about it then, because it was important that people know that me and my child have this connection. I always told people, I knew when I was pregnant with her, I was done with kids. I knew 100% without a doubt, this was it. There was no guessing. There wasn't maybe in a couple of years, maybe. No, I was done. This was it. I was waiting on her. She completed us. And when I gave birth to her, it was like greeting an old friend again. I brought her into the world. And when she was about 2, I started to express to people that she was my soulmate. And at this point, I hadn't made up my mind about soulmates. And now I have. Now, when she passed, I knew again, like 100% without a doubt. I didn't understand the significance of that or what it meant for me, or that soulmates don't always stay with you. But I could feel Kherington in her room without hearing or seeing her, just by her energy.
Wow.
We had our own language with slow blinks. Like, she would just stand in front of me when I was talking to another grown-up, and she'd give me these very slow blinks, and I'd give them back, and they just meant, I love you, and are you done yet? And I'm waiting.
You're talking through your eyes.
Right.
That's
and she was an amazing kid, and she's still an amazing entity now. I sometimes, this August will be 4 years for me. And sometimes I quit looking at her as, I still refer to her as Kherington, but I quit looking at her as just Kherington, my child, and more like Kherington, the entity, the soul.
Yeah.
I believe in reincarnation. I believe me and her have shared many lives, as I have with other people in my life. But I do believe me and her come in genuinely as women, and usually as mother, daughter, sisters, best friends. And at least for me, that's what resonates inside my soul, that we've done this before many times.
That's amazing. And I know you've had many other connections with her over these next 4 years. Do you want to share with the listeners, what does that look like when a parent, and a good question is, why don't some of the kids reach out to their parents when they pass? And if they do reach out, what should we be looking for? And maybe give us some of your examples.
I think for everybody, it's different. I sometimes wonder with my mom, did she reach out and I just didn't know? I just didn't see it. It just didn't click in my head. I had gained more knowledge prior to Kherington's passing. So there's a big group of people. So you have all these parents, and there's 20, 40, 60,000 people in these child loss groups. And sometimes the question is posed, did you know? Did you have a feeling that your child was going to die?
Yeah.
And I think that and my percentages, of course, will be off because I'm not really taking tally. There is a large portion, I would say maybe 40%, who says, I knew my child wasn't going to live long, or I knew they weren't going to make it to adulthood. I had premonitions. I had feelings when I was pregnant with them. Then you have the other camp that says, no, I didn't know. And this would be the camp I'm in, but my child did. And my child made comments. My child said I wasn't going to live to be 30, and then they died at 29.
Okay.
And then you have about 20% who they said, nope, my kid never said anything. Nope, I didn't have a feeling. And even then, sometimes I wonder, because I think maybe your kid didn't say something to you, mom, but they said something to their best friend or alluded to somebody else.
Yeah, that's true.
They're not going to come tell you that after your kid has passed.
Right.
So I had Kherington, the lady who lived across the street from us, she was a pastor's wife. Her husband worked for hospice, and he also did some church services. And she was Kherington's group's Girl Scout troop leader. And she had
Okay.
4 daughters, and one was a grade ahead of Kherington, so they were kind of best friends, did slumber parties. They sometimes took her to church and on trips. And so she would go to church and she would come home and have questions for me. So we would talk a little bit about them. They went and did a trip to Noah's Ark in Kentucky, that big ark that they built to replicate, what it says in the Bible. And she would come home and I didn't always have the answers for her. And like, she asked me if I believe in ghosts, and yeah, sure I do. But like, I don't want to scare my 9-year-old, especially when
Right.
sometimes she might be home for a few minutes, before I get home from work without me. I don't want her to freak
Yeah,
out.
of course.
But I remember her asking me questions. And I remember that last summer I had them for 2 months before they went to their dad's for 3 weeks. They came home for like a whole month, and then they went back for 3 more weeks. And I remember telling her somewhere in there towards the end of the school year into the summer, I remember looking at her and I said, Kherington, I don't know all the answers, but I don't want to put down religion. I don't want to say I don't believe that book, but but I also didn't want to like fill her head with things that she wouldn't understand
Yeah.
yet. So I just told her, I said, Kherington, we're going to both live to be very old. I'm going to die. And when I die, I'm going to do for you what my grandma did for me. And I'm going to come visit you in a dream.
Oh,
And I'm going to tell you everything that's real and not real.
okay.
So we had conversations about being able to do this prior to her
That's
passing.
cool. Mm-hmm.
In the weeks leading up to her passing, I had been really sick. I have some autoimmune issues. I was in a flare up. I didn't have health insurance. I was running fevers at night. My whole entire body ached. It just hurt to move. And I remember laying on bed, just scrolling my phone. She was next to me watching TV. And I remember her asking me, what would you do if I died? Would you be sad? Would you cry? And I remember with all the strength I had, I rolled over and I looked at her and I was like, Kherington, I would be totally devastated. And then I'm thinking, like, why am I even saying that? Like, you are going to live a long life. Like, I don't even know why we're talking about this. And I
Yeah.
remember rolling back over, and I didn't have a headboard at the time. I remember looking at my wall, and my voice in my head shouted, Krista, this is a moment. Ask her.
Okay.
And so I took what I could and I rolled back over and I said, Kherington, did you have a bad dream? And she said, no. I said, did you have a bad feeling? She said, no. I said, why would you ask me that? And she said, I just wanted to know.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, okay, yeah, you're going to live a long life. Like, we're not going to talk about this, and I remember rolling back over and I remember thinking for just a second, I'm pretty sure that voice that sounded like me, I believe that was my higher being, my higher self.
Higher self, yeah.
I think looking back over my life, like you said, have I had other instances? I'm pretty sure there's been 1 or 2 other times that my higher self has shouted at me, like, leave this place, move, don't
Right.
do this,
Yeah.
But that was the first time, and I'm so grateful to my higher self for making me stop and ask that question. I didn't even remember that until after I was already in Wisconsin at the hospital and I was getting my son and leaving,
Oh,
that I even remember that conversation took place.
right.
And I thought, my God, did she know? And
Wow.
I
Yeah.
have had mediumship readings. So I try not to talk too much about that because it is info I'm getting from Kherington through them versus info I'm getting in automatic writing. So it is going, this person told me this. But I did ask them to ask her if she knew. And they said no, like her soul knew.
Oh, okay.
The ego that is Kherington, or the entity that is Kherington, did not
Didn't
know.
know. Okay.
And that did make me feel better, but it was trying to warn me. It was trying to give me, her soul was trying to give my soul a heads up. And I didn't know. I didn't.
Yeah.
I just thought it was a harmless question.
I happen to know a few of the experiences you've had because you shared them with me. And I'm curious, when did the astral projection happen? And were you starting to practice astral projection first, or that just happened and then you went into an astral projection group?
No, so I hear of astral projection and I believe it. I believe that we do it and we don't remember it. I believe
Mhm.
that you can do it at will. And the first time I know for sure, it was December 26th of 2018. So she passed in August. The
Okay.
first time I didn't actually jump, but I think it was preparing me. So
Gotcha.
it was the middle of the night. I had already started to fall asleep there. You know, that sweet spot where you get warm and you get tingly and vibrating, and
Yep.
it feels like your foot's asleep, but it doesn't hurt. Okay. So that's the sweet spot that's your jumping. That's where you jump.
Yeah, I go out
Oh,
of body. I've
okay. So you know.
yeah, I know.
So when people ask like, what are the signs or how do I do it? And I'm like,
Yeah.
when you're starting to fall asleep and you get that warm, tingly.
Yep.
So the first time was very semi-traumatic. And like I said, I didn't jump. I was scared to jump. But I
Yeah.
think all that traumaticness is what prepared me. So when I did it, it was nothing like that. So my cat was sleeping on my arm. Like I could feel it like on my body and my arm. I couldn't move. I woke up in a panic. I couldn't move. I was vibrating on the inside of my body at a super high rate.
Hmm.
Like I could vibrate out of my body, which is what it was trying to get me to do. But my body itself felt like 1,000 pounds.
Uh,
It felt like I was cement and I was stuck to
was
that bed.
this
And my
also sleep paralysis? Would you consider it?
no, I've had sleep paralysis, and
Okay, just
that is
heavy, heavy. Okay.
yeah. Like it felt like yeah,
I know
no.
what you're talking about.
So
I
sleep
think.
paralysis, I can't move, but I don't feel heavy. I just
Yep.
can't move.
Yep. Yep.
This felt like you
Hmm.
put a concrete block of 1,000 pounds on me, but yet everything inside of me was just speeding up. And I was hearing whooshing, like
Yep. Hmm.
whooshing, and it felt like wind. And
Hmm.
I am pretty sure two things. I know that my male spirit guide, and I do know his name. I've had to meditate for that name, and I don't like calling him that. I don't know why. He's just my spirit guide. He is a male. He's
Okay.
always been with me. I've always known that, but I didn't really start to communicate with him until the last, since Kherington's passing, really has brought me closer to him. He was there as a dark figure, and because my room was dark, and it's very hard to explain to people when you start to get spiritually open. I just say it's a feeling, and they go, "How do you know?" It's knowing. That is what it is. It's just a knowing
Hmm.
feeling. I feel it in my body. I know it in my brain. There is no thought to it. There is no working myself up. That is how it is. So he was standing there,
Hmm.
and I don't know if it was a portal, but it was. Sometimes I have these things because I've had other experiences where my eyes are closed, but it
Yeah.
feels like I'm seeing with my eyes open,
Yep.
even though they're closed. Okay.
Yep. Hmm.
People, it's very hard. People who don't go
Do
through
it.
it,
They don't know. Yeah.
they don't understand. So it felt like there was a portal that did open, and it was
Yeah.
green inside there. But my
Uh-huh.
spirit guide, he really was just like, "Are you going to do it, or are you not?" Like I'm waiting, and we've been doing this for a few minutes, and I was so scared. And I was like, "Don't do it! Don't do it! Don't do it! Don't do it!"
Do
And
it.
it all stopped. It all stopped. It was like as soon as it started, like it just all stopped.
Yeah.
And I got up and I moved my cat. And I looked at my cat and I said, "Why didn't you warn me? You didn't even move. Like, what's going on?" I posted about it in the group, the Mediumship for the Grieving Heart, which is a group to help parents connect to their children, ran by a medium named Kristen Salter. She doesn't do any type of readings or anything like that in the group. You have to, go to her website and book that way. But she did a free web series. It's like an 8-part series that talks about what is death, what happens in the afterlife. Now that your child's passed, what can you do, how to ground and meditate.
Yeah. Great.
And it just starts to teach you that you can connect to your child, and it is a great series.
Hmm.
And I posted it in that group because I didn't know. I mean, I knew about astral project, but I never really read up on it or anything. I was just like, yeah,
Right.
okay,
You
that's
didn't know the
something you can do.
details. Yeah.
And then when I started to put in my symptoms or experience, the heavy feeling, the vibrating,
Yep.
it came up astral projection. So I went back in on the comment and said, I think I almost astral projected. So when I actually did it was March of 2019. I had woke up at like 4 a.m. I had done some cleaning. I laid back down at 6 or 8 in the morning for like a little nap. And I started to get that warm spot where I started to feel tingly.
Hmm.
And I was like, oh no, not again. And then all I
Do
did,
it.
all I did was said, I want to know. And boom, I was out of my body.
Ooh, okay. Cool.
So I was out of my body. I sat up, my legs are in front of me. And I thought, I'm going to drift right up. I'm going to see I never looked back at myself in the bed. I went out feet first through my living room, through the window, up over the house, and it's daylight. And I saw other people doing it. Like other people they were just floating over my neighborhood, and we just took off and we started going. And I was by myself. It wasn't like flying like Superman on my belly. It was more like, have you seen people on Segways? Okay, it was like that. It was like standing, just going through the air.
Yep.
And I came up, and I remember when I left my house, I kept saying, Kherington, Kherington, make my intentions, Kherington, Kherington, Kherington.
Yeah, yeah.
And I came up on England. How do I know? I just know I was coming up to England.
Oh, okay.
And I realized I was not going to see Kherington. And so I said, I don't want to do this no more. And I was immediately in my body. There was no thought. There was no string pulling me back.
Right. Yeah.
There wasn't a heavy feeling. I was just back in my body again.
Yeah.
And it took me a couple weeks to realize I had done a DNA test. And my mom had always told me we're like Hungarian and Slavic. And I'm thinking, but then my DNA test came back. I was like 0.5% that. And then the rest was like 98% English, Welsh, Irish. So now it makes me wonder if I was going back to where my ancestors were really from.
Oh, very interesting.
I don't know why I was going there. And then it's like the question you asked me about, why do some parents get dream visits and some don't? Well, I've heard people who astral project, some of them go to other planets or go to the cosmos. Why did I just go to a regular place? And I was oriented to the time of the day that it was, you know what I mean? And I was going to a real place.
Right.
And I know of people astral projecting to the other side, 2 buildings at the other side.
Yep.
So like I said, when I left my house, I was pitting my intentions for her, but it was just a knowing feeling that it wasn't, I wasn't going to go see her. And I was disappointed. And so I just wanted to go back, and I did. But even when I came back, I didn't see my body. So that was one thing I never saw was my body.
Did you travel into your room? You didn't. You were right back and
I
faded
was
back
just right
in the
back.
body.
I was headed to the shoreline of England, and I was right back in my body.
Really cool.
Yeah. So I would say, I think like for me, child loss opened me up so spiritually, and I did embrace it, that even now my focus has shifted from child loss to my spiritual journey.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? Like Kherington was definitely the catalyst for it, but it has evolved because I have such a good connection to her. I still miss her. I still, there's certain triggers I have. There's a specific song I still can't listen to. The big holidays, her passing and, her birthday are very close together. I never know how I'm going to feel. I think the lead up to them is worse than the day of. But I haven't cried since her passing last year over her. Like I said, I miss her, but I only have to call on her for her to show up. So before, we used to be separated by distance. Her at her dad's, me at house, me at work, her at school. Now it doesn't matter where I'm at in the world. I can just call her.
In what ways does she show up for you? Can you give us some examples?
So when I feel her, I feel a tingle on the back of my head where she touches me. Of course, she's left me all, I went to the crash site when I was in Wisconsin. I sat down and cried for like 20 minutes. And even though I sat in this spot for 20 minutes, I looked over next to my leg, and there was the biggest, whitest, fluffiest feather. So she has dropped feathers off. She has messed with electrical things. Her sister, I never see orbs. I can see them in pictures. Her sister, who was 16 when she passed and is 20 now, will get orbs that she can see with the naked eye, and they zoom across. She can get them on video too. Other people, I've seen her in my house. The lady who was her Girl Scout leader, who I assume her beliefs were more along the lines of religious. She has called me up and told me that she's seen Kherington in the doorway of her bedroom. Wow. She thought it was one of her kids, and she was telling her to go back to bed, and she looked up and it was Kherington. And she says that their living room is really dark. And she's like, you know how it's dark? And I'm like, yeah. She goes, when Zoe, her daughter's really missing Kherington, and it's a really hard day, and they're talking about her. She said that this ball of light shows up, and it's so bright that it literally illuminates the whole room.
Whoa.
And I'm like, are you kidding? I'm like, that's my kid. That is Kherington. She
Wow.
asked me, she said, what do you think that is? I was like, that is her. Like, if you can get it on
Yeah.
video or a picture, that is her coming through for you guys. She's moved things in front of her brother. I have moved beyond, like I said, asking her for signs to tell me that the afterlife is true and that she's still around, to the point that I now ask her to help me find lost things. So,
That's funny.
and this is some of the stuff I do. So like when Kherington first passed, I said to my spirit guide and to Kherington, and mind you, I had that first stream, so I knew she was around. And I said, I want to know when you're sending me signs, but I don't want to have to second guess. So I want a knowing. I want an alarm. And for the first 2 to 3 years, I would get an alarm that said Kherington, 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 Kherington. It would just shout it at me. See a feather, see a penny, some weird call, and it would just shout Kherington at me. So it was like an alarm system for me. I don't need that so much now. And like I said, I don't need so much validation or verification that this is all real. But one of my favorite ones is, I moved into this house in the middle, like at the beginning of the pandemic. It's going to be my forever home. It's down the street from my childhood home. And I decided that the downstairs hallway, I was going to make my Kherington wall. I was going to put all of her artwork so that it wouldn't get ruined. It would get displayed. So it'd have pictures of her. It would have, she was a really good artist. She loved Pokemon. So she had so many of them drawn. And I was working on it, and I must have been really tired, and I must have not really been feeling it. And normally I love decorating, so I'd put a picture up and I'd work my way around it, you know, just hanging things up as they look good. And I lost 5 mini levels. I even had my uncle bring one over, and I lost that too. And I thought, okay, this is the universe's way saying you're too tired. You're not in a place to do this.
Okay.
So the next day, I'm looking for these levels. I can't find them. The next day, I'm on the phone with a friend at like 9:30 in the morning. And I'm like, I can't find these levels, but doing this hallway is very important to me. And I was still at that stage where I was still doing a lot for her, a lot of projects, make a quilt, do this, paint that, make it pink, display her stuff. So that was still very much part of my healing, was doing projects for her, because she wasn't here to take care of, and she was 9. So I was still making dinner for her and washing her clothes and picking out, you know, her stuff and making sure her book bag was packed. So I was still very much taking care of her.
Wow.
And so this was like my way to do that without her being here to do it. And so it was like still doing things for her. And I said, watch this. You know, we're on the phone, so watch this. And I said, Kherington, I really need help finding this level. This hallway is your hallway. It's a very important project for me. Help me find this level, but I don't want to have to move anything. I don't want to have to pick up a towel. I don't want to have to move a basket. I don't want to have to open a box. Like, I want it there. I go through the whole day, don't get anything work done because I don't have this little level. Me and my grandson, we'll watch a movie. We fall asleep at like 8-ish. And I wake up at 10, super thirsty. And I have a picture of this. I don't think I sent it to you. I have a picture of this.
Okay.
I opened my refrigerator door, and you know what's sitting on the top? The level in my refrigerator.
Hilarious.
And so ever since then, like, it doesn't always happen. She didn't help me find my water shoe before my cruise, so I did have to buy a new pair. But that's now what I kind of do. I'm like, Kherington, help me find my glasses. Kherington, help me find my keys. But I don't want to look for it. I just want them there. And you know, most of the time she comes through. Sometimes she's like, you're on your own, Mom. But like I said, she has shown me so many incredible things. She's popped into the house. I've seen her in the middle of the night. It freaked, you know, my eyes and my neurons in my brain. They're not computing what I'm seeing. And I jump back and I scream, and then she disappeared. And then I feel guilty for jumping and screaming, because then I don't want her to not come back. She's also visited.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
You can go ahead.
I was just curious if she offers you over these years any information about what she's doing over there, or, what it's like over there? Or, is she going to wait for you to come back before you guys
So
decide to do something else together?
I did take an automatic writing course. I don't do it that often, but when I do it, I do connect with her. Like I said, in her dream, she does pop in as about a 7-year-old. When we automatic write, she comes to me older. I think because during that time, I was really regretting not being able to see what she was starting to thin out in the cheeks. Her hair was growing out. She was kind of hitting puberty really young. And I was so sad. I was so upset that I wouldn't get to see what she would look like. So she comes to me about 13 to 15. She's beautiful, by the way. And
Wow.
so when she comes to me that way, most of her messages are for me, for my healing,
Okay.
about it being her time,
Okay.
about it happening the way that we agreed to it. A
Oh.
lot of it is about love, about me opening myself up to people, that I can close myself off. I'm not super free with my emotions, especially my happy ones. I don't really trust too many people with them. I'm not super physical with people in general. So like, out of all the people in the world, the one I was closest to was her, especially after me and her dad had divorced. She was the one that would come and put her head on my shoulder. We still had hands in the store. So when she passed, I didn't have that really anymore.
Yeah.
So most of her messages when she comes through that way is for me, is for my benefit.
Yeah.
I don't get too far into whether she would reincarnate before. I don't think she will. I think she's waiting on me.
Okay.
She in some of the mediumship readings, like I said, it's really hard to like reference them because that is getting information from somebody else. I had 3 really good experiences. I have a lot of good. I was always going at the very beginning. I went to so many mediums through Facebook, on the phone, through Zoom,
Oh,
in
okay.
person. And because I didn't trust anybody to do a reading with more than once. And I had to find her because I had to take care of her still. And she would show up so beautifully. And in the first reading, they always ask you at the very end, is there something that you would like to ask them? And I said, is there something that she wants me to know? And she said, tell my mom my hair's long now, which is how she comes to me in automatic writing, with very long wavy hair. Like the wave that is in like a curl, because her hair was naturally straight. She said, tell my mom my hair is long now, because her dad had cut it like 2 summers ago up to her chin, where her hair came all the way down to her underwear, the skims of her underwear. She had really long hair, and we called it Rapunzel hair, and she was in the process of growing it back out.
Okay.
And then I asked in that life if there was, what was her favorite thing in her life that was Kherington life, in this life. And I was expecting, my mom, you, or this, that, and that. No, she said that her favorite thing in this life was the toys. And if you think about it, in the 80s, 70s, 50s, 1900s, 1800s, there's never been a time like now with toys, with all the bright colors and the games and the stuffed animals, And I thought, oh my God, that makes so much sense. And that's so true.
Yeah.
That was her favorite thing, was the toys. And I had a really, really amazing reading with somebody who, at the very beginning, I wanted to go through Kherington's transition from in the car, what she knew, what she didn't know. That really haunted me, that they were in the car for so long with him driving at such high erratic speeds. That
Yeah.
he was so fast that police couldn't catch up to him from where the 911 calls were taking place. So this was something that was witnessed by a lot of people. And she was in the back seat, and I could just picture her hair whipping around. And my son, I know from my son, now mind you, he has autism. He told me he knew it was going to happen, and he ducked down and he tucked his hand under his legs to hold himself down. She's in the back seat. Her hair's whipping around her. Maybe she didn't see.
Mhm.
So we went through that she didn't know. And like I
Mhm.
said, I can see this as the lady, as Kherington's explaining it to her.
Mhm.
And I can see it like a movie in my head because that's how I visualize things.
Mhm.
And she said that when the car started to leave the road, so it hit nose first and then it flew really far. They were very surprised how far it flew into a cornfield, over a barbed wire fence. And the corn was tall too, so you couldn't even see it from the road.
Okay.
Um,
Wow.
they said when the car started to leave the road that she wasn't scared because she did this before. And I'm like, we were in one fender bender in front of the school. Like one car had like bumped my minivan at the time. And I
Mhm.
thought, we've not been in a car accident. And the lady said, no, not the accident. She remembered dying. She had done this she had
Oh,
died
okay.
many times before. And I was like,
Huh.
and then
Wow.
she told me that she knew, and I had heard this after, like in the last year, where there is this moment when you're dying, they say, oh, you leave your body before you die,
Mhm.
but there's also like a part of you still in there. So that's what they said. They said she left her body, she felt no
Mm.
pain, but that she could still see shadows coming up to the car. And
Okay.
at the same time, she was in a distance,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
going into the light. She could see people waiting for her. She's going to greet them. And she
Okay.
looks back over and she knows that her brother's going to be okay. Now, this lady does not know who I am. She does not know Kherington's story by my
Oh,
name. This is like within
wow.
the first 3 weeks of her passing. Um,
Okay.
and of
She's
course, like I
being
said,
very
it's,
descriptive here. Yeah.
yeah. And she says that she looks over and she knows that her brother's going to be okay because there's people there, and that he only hurt his arm. And if you even pull up any articles, they will all say he was severely injured. He broke a bone in his arm. He needed no surgery and he walked to the ambulance with help.
Wow.
So everybody in the newscast kept saying,
Yeah.
this, 9-year-old died. Her brother was severely injured,
Mhm. Mhm.
but nobody knew that the only
Mhm.
thing he hurt was his arm. And she
Yeah.
said that I knew my brother was going to be okay because there were people there
Jeez.
and he hurt
Yeah.
his arm. And she's also the one that, I believe she was the one that told me that she saw a Mustang on the freeway, like the Mustang, the horse on the freeway.
Oh,
She
okay.
was in a Ford Mustang,
Oh,
was
okay.
the car.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was
Yeah.
like, oh my God. Okay. That imagery
Huh.
totally hits the nail on the head, that like
Wow.
and she said that she saw Kherington with her book bag and she's showing her certificate and it says, look, mom, I did it. Like I've done what I needed to do on
Mm.
this side to
Mhm.
start coming visiting you more. And that was my child in this life.
Mm.
Straight A's, did her homework without asking. Great, I didn't have to study with her. She just was good at spelling and math and reading and finished ahead of everybody. And that totally would have been my kid, to show you a certificate that she did what she needed to on the other
Yep.
side to start coming and visiting more, which probably meant she did her life review and
Yeah.
but that's her biggest thing, that this was supposed to happen. This was meant to
Yeah.
happen. This was her time. She's not missing out on having kids or being married or
Yeah.
getting
Right.
old, because
Right.
she's
Right.
done
Which
that.
parents will worry about when this kind of thing happens, obviously. Yeah.
Oh, it's so devastating. I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes when I tell my story, it's hard because the person I'm telling it to cries, and then I'm over here not crying, like I'm over here patting. I'm like, I promise it's okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And it still sometimes feels bad to say I'm okay.
Mm.
I don't say I'm healed. I say I'm actively healing.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
had to choose healing.
Yeah.
I probably will always be actively healing in this life from this.
Mhm.
But if I'm to believe what I believe, which is that we have past lives, that we reincarnate. First of all, I remember at the beginning thinking, why her? Why did she die? Why did she die? Why her? And then I
Mhm.
realized I could have lost 2 kids that day. And some
Mm.
people do lose all their kids
Mhm. Mhm.
or multiple kids. Sometimes they leave them in the same instance, and sometimes it's a couple years apart, but it is
Yeah.
very much could happen.
Yeah.
And then I think, why not her? Why do I expect this to happen in a third world country
Mhm.
or in a place, like I said, another country with a dictatorship? Like why wouldn't it be us? Why wouldn't it
Right.
be
Yeah.
just a normal family?
Yeah.
And then I think, if I live past lives, then I live past lives and harsher realities and harsher climates
Right.
and harsher economic. So I remember, one of my great grandma had 15 kids and only 4 survived. You know what
Oh,
I mean? So
wow.
then I think, like, why wouldn't it happen in this life? Why wouldn't it happen to her? Why
Right.
wouldn't it happen to me?
Yeah.
And it really has set my trajectory for my life
Yeah.
uh, into this huge spiritual awakening
Yeah.
where I've experienced things that not everyone gets to, that I
Right.
know what I get to look forward to. I have time to learn and to grow and to have new experiences. And I mean, I'm not always happy about it. It's not like I am like, oh, thank you, Kherington, for, I am thankful to her. She's amazing and she hasn't left me and she's guided me. I still miss her physical. I miss her
Right.
smell. She was,
Yeah.
she was my favorite smell. I miss hugging her. I miss her smile, and I miss smacking her hand out of her mouth when she's trying to bite her nails. And I miss, you know, threatening her to wear socks in the wintertime so that the school, her teacher doesn't think I'm a bad mom and I send her to school with no socks on.
Mhm.
Um,
I feel like, Krista, you could be such a source of strength and hope for other parents, with these experiences. So I think it's important that you're sharing this. You're starting to share more. Um,
yeah,
and is there a way that the parents who want to connect with you can? Are you open to that?
I am. So my email is my first name, Krista, Krista,
Okay.
6955 at Yahoo. I'm also on Facebook under Krista Prince. And there's also, I mentioned the mediumship for the Grieving Heart, ran by Christine Salter, but there's another group that I really would recommend anybody who wants out of grieving, they want to see a
Mhm.
better way. That would be on a Facebook group, a private group called Healing Warrior Parents. They're also a nonprofit called Healing Warrior Parent or Healing Warrior United. And
Okay.
these are all parents, men and women, um, different socio and economic backgrounds. They had different belief systems. Some were spiritual, some were religion, some didn't know.
Mm,
And we've all chose to actively heal together. And they
nice.
do classes. So in my first 2 years, I took multiple classes, which was, what
Mm,
is death and what does it mean to you? So I had to define what death was and what it meant
mhm.
to me. It was the first time I started to lay the foundation of what I believe. I did the Abe Hick death lectures.
Mm.
Absolutely loathed it, but it is the thing I quote the most,
Huh.
surprisingly,
Okay.
because it made me stop and listen to what was being said.
Okay.
Um, and there is the holiday program that lasts from like the beginning of November all the way through the new year. And that's really great for that first year or two when you are
Mhm.
um, going through the first holiday season alone. Because I
Yeah.
don't know about anybody else, but I don't know anyone that's lost kids. And everybody I say that to, they say, you know what, me neither. Nobody in my neighborhood's lost a kid. Nobody at my kid's school has passed away. None of my coworkers have lost a kid.
Mhm.
Um, and it's a lonely place, even with an amazing support system from my friends and family have been
Mhm.
super amazing, but it is very lonely. And then I started to go through this spiritual shift, and my best friend's like, I believe you, but I'm not going through it.
Mhm.
There's nothing in my life that has catapulted me to where you're going.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so
Right.
then you think you're crazy and you
Yeah.
start to share, and some people are open to it and some people
Some
are
people
not.
are. Yeah.
And you learn really quickly who they are.
Would you
um,
mind sending me those links after we
yeah.
close here so I would like to put all of them in the video description for everybody to refer to,
Mhm.
whoever needs these kinds of things. So,
Yeah, I really hope that parents who need them find them. They need to find their tribe, and I do belong to a tribe of amazing mothers
yeah.
who all feel the way I feel and believe the way I believe, and are finding their kids in spirits. And
Yeah.
you just, I had to let go of a lot of the anger, which was not easy. But those classes, and that, like a trigger shifting class, I've taken that a couple of times. uh, in the Healing Warrior Parents, they gave me the tools. I have a toolbox. It's not a real one. You can't touch it. I can't, hand you the tools, but they are there for me. And I had to release a lot of anger. I was mad at the universe, never God,
Yeah, sure.
never Kherington.
Right.
But I was mad at the world, and I had to, it was eating me from inside, and I still had to be a mother to my other kids and a sister
Yeah.
and a friend and a co-worker, and I still had to put one foot in front of the other. And it was so compounded by her loss. It was, oh, I need work on my car, and I lost Kherington, and oh, the stove is giving me issues, and I lost Kherington.
Yeah.
And it was a vicious cycle. And so, like I said, I would take having her back over anything in the world. I never want to go back to those first couple of days, weeks, and months. I remember those feelings, but I'm able to separate myself from them now. But
Yeah.
if I let myself get too far into it, I can feel my heart rate picking back up, and my breathing go shallow, and the speeding up and the spinning up, the slowing down at the same time. And
Yeah. You've grown so much, Krista. It's like incredible.
well,
I
like I
mean,
said, I think the journey's shifted to
yeah, your own spiritual. That's awesome. I'm gonna be, I hope we can stay in touch, and then I can
definitely.
keep up with your spiritual journey.
I'm hoping to catch one of your Thursday meet and greets
Okay.
still.
Yeah, I'd love it. I'd love it.
And I didn't bring a picture, but I did wear my pin of
Oh,
Kherington.
there she is. I
Yeah.
love it. I love
And
that.
my Hufflepuff, because right before she passed away, I'm a Harry Potter fan. I'm not a Hufflepuff, but she took a quiz and told me she was a Hufflepuff. And 2 days before she left, she told me she was ready to start reading the books with me. And
Oh,
I asked her to wait until she came back so I could get them out of the closet, dust them off, and we would read them once school started.
yeah.
And we never got that chance. So I had a friend pick me up a Hufflepuff, because she was a Hufflepuff through and through. So
Krista, thank you so much for hanging out with me and sharing this really emotional and powerful, beautiful story of you
thank
and your
you.
daughter. And she's amazing.
I always say she's just as amazing in spirit as she was when she was here in the physical.
Yeah, thank you so much. And thank you to everyone watching. This has been Julie McVey with Unordinary Made Ordinary. And if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you like the content we're sharing on the channel, please subscribe. And then hit the bell icon if you want to be alerted to future videos. I hope you are all having a wonderful day or evening wherever you are on the planet or off the planet. And we will see you next time.
See ya.
Bye,
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye.